Mojo Joe Boris and Zach Attack Shahan. We're back for another episode of EV Obsession. It is not Friday, but it's effectively Friday. Kids are off.
Feels like Friday.
Feels like Friday. Kids have no school tomorrow.
Exactly. It's Veterans Day coming up. Everybody can, thank me for my service. It'll be wonderful.
Oh yeah, thank you, Joe. I honestly, I always forget. It's somehow complete. Like I don't have it on your timeline of what you've done. Which, by the way, your timeline of what you've done seems like two timelines. Like you've crammed too much stuff into your short, young life.
Well, I think it's funny, right? Because I've always had like some kind of side gig going on. And like for the longest time, my side gig was this. And now like this is my normal 9 to 5. So it just seems like I'm doing a lot less now.
I guess part of that is I feel like I've worked with you for 15 years and like, well, when did you do this other stuff? Like we've been working on this stuff but
We've been
no,
working on this for a
what is
long
your
time.
it is Veterans Day tomorrow, and we're publishing this maybe even on Veterans Day. What was your service, Joe?
Oh, it's like nothing. I went in,
Oh,
I went into the Air Force. I did basic training. I did tech school. Tech school went forever. They got hurt basically. And then I was put in the guard and then put into reserve, and I never did anything for 8 years. I was never
how
deployed.
many years?
I never fought anybody. Well, I was
8 years?
technically reserve. I was active duty for like a year and a half, 2 years, but again, all of that was spent in school. I was never deployed. And
Wow.
then I was reserve for another term and a half and never
And
never went anywhere or did anything.
as reserve, you're just on call, but no one ever calls you, right?
Nobody ever called me. No, I think they all figured they could do better.
Yeah,
They were like looking at they're looking at the stats sheet and they're like,
that
this guy's
white
like four
pudgy
feet
guy,
tall. Why do we need this guy? Maybe
that
if we need to
short
go
white
fight,
pudgy guy who
yeah,
causes so much trouble.
we gotta go fight somebody in a pygmy cave. This guy will be the guy. But
Yeah.
no thanks.
On to EVs. Here we go. So thank you for your non-service service, Joe.
Hey, no problem, man.
Wonder how much money the U.S. government spent on you.
Not enough. Oh,
Not
this is
if you're
great.
gonna be doing this. All right.
This is the BYD Fang Cheng Bao Bao 5 SUV. They just launched this here a couple minutes ago. And this is a really interesting vehicle because this is a full-size SUV, 0 to 60 in 4.5 about seconds. This is right there in that meaty part of the marketplace where we still have so much sales success for so many different brands. This is a hot vehicle. This is exactly the kind of thing that I think would be very successful in the US and in Europe. And it's like 35 grand. Look at this thing. This is a great looking little car. If it had a different, maybe a less Power Rangery logo on the front, if it had a Chevy badge or a Ford badge, you wouldn't even question it. This is really, really seems like it's in good shape. This is a plug-in hybrid, I believe, right?
You tell me, Joe. Here's the one.
Yeah, plug-in hybrid.
No,
Lots of screens.
This launched like seconds or a few minutes before we went live, so we haven't had a chance to look at this closely. But wow, look at that. This is crazy.
The big issue here is cost controls, right? Like that they can deliver something like this for under the equivalent of 40,000 US dollars, and it looks like $1 million. I mean, this
Wow.
is a solid vehicle.
How is BYD actually makes profits on its EVs? It's in that standalone tier with Tesla where it's like it's making money and it's selling a ton. But this is this is bonkers. Like,
Yeah.
first of all,
You can see the price in
BYD
the background there. It's a 289,000 to 352,000 yuan.
Yeah, can you convert that
It's about 35 to 40,000.
That's crazy. I mean, the thing is BYD is already in so many segments of the market, already selling so many EVs, and you're like, wow, BYD is doing like so much more than anyone else in that regard.
Yeah.
And now it's going to come out with a totally new model. Like, I don't know, it's kind of Range Rover, between a Range Rover and a Jeep, like kind of look. Like it's like
It feels very Ford Bronco-y to me.
Ford Bronco-y, like, but then
Yeah.
also like affordable.
But here's the ultimate question, right?
Seriously.
If Ford can come to market in 2 or 3 years, if BYD can come to market in 2 or 3 years, if Volkswagen can come to market in 2 or 3 years, how long are we going to keep pretending that like it's okay for companies like Tesla and Nikola and Lucid to be sitting on product designs for basically like 5 or 6 years before they come to market? Because we're still waiting on Lucid's SUV that they showed back in 2019, right?
Yeah, I totally forgot about Lucid having an SUV.
Yeah, I think everybody else did too, especially the people who had one on order.
We
They're
talked
over
before
it.
we talked before the show was like about whether we covered some Lucid stories. Like the joke was nobody cares. Nobody cares.
Nobody cares.
We're gonna have 3 Lucid stories in this episode, so you better care. But the fact is, Lucid
That's the
don't really,
graphic. It's a Lucid and it's going to say nobody cares.
people don't pay attention.
Nobody
People don't care. BYD though, I mean seriously, like you said, it's like it's already selling huge high volumes of different models.
Yeah.
So it's just in a league of its own. I mean, Tesla says, "Oh, we can't produce more models because we're selling so many of these models," but BYD doesn't say that. They're like, "Oh, here's our next vehicle class we're
Well,
rolling into."
Toyota doesn't say that. Ford doesn't say that. And they're selling more volume. I mean, again, don't fall into the hype. Yes, the Model Y is the best selling vehicle in the world. No question. But if you
Yeah,
look at all of Ford and all of VW, they're outselling Tesla.
I just
Tesla's still a small piece of the
I
market.
just wonder about the long game more these days. Like the argument made a lot of sense to me. Why would we produce a new model when we can't produce enough of these 2 models that sell like crazy? And why?
Sure.
And that's going to cost more. We're going to make less margin. It's going to be hard. It's not sensible. But you see, BYD is like, we're just going to keep rolling out one new model after another. Also, I mean, Neo and Xpeng and Li Auto, these other Chinese EV startups, they keep rolling out new models. And I mean, yeah, they don't have the same success level with any 2 models, but in the long run, we've talked about this a million times, but it just keeps coming back. I just don't think Tesla's going to continue to have the demand it has or grow as it has when everyone's like, oh, I see those Teslas everywhere. Like, what's new?
That's
I
right.
literally yesterday, and so a lot of kids a lot of people at our elementary school have Teslas and other EVs now. And my first grader was saying that her friend had a Tesla, but they don't anymore. And she says Teslas are boring. And I was like, whoa. I was like, what does she know? What does this little first grader know? Teslas aren't boring, but I was curious where it came from, especially because like it turned out very coincidentally, the girl ended up like no one's in the parking lot. Like there's a pickup line, there's walking area. Just a handful of people end up in the parking lot for some reason. But we were in the parking lot. Ended up this girl ended up in the space right next to us, leaving in a Kia Soul. And I was like, wait, they said a Tesla's boring, but they got a Kia Soul. And secondly, I mean, this is all we're way off. We're way into tangent land, but they're extremely rich, like ridiculously rich. So, first of all, why do they think Teslas are boring? Why are they driving a Kia Soul? And what is going on?
I can
But I
actually
think,
answer that.
but we got onto the tangent because I do think there's a concern the Model Y and the Model 3 will start to look boring because everyone's got one. Doesn't
Yep.
matter if it's faster, has more tech. If everyone's got one, a lot of people are going to want something else. And I think BYD is playing great with the long game. Of course, Tesla's got the Cybertruck coming out, but I mean, they're going to sell more than 100,000 of these before the first like 1,000 Cybertrucks are in the garages.
Yeah, 100%. So I'll talk a little bit to this concept about Teslas being boring.
I know you will.
No,
Joe,
because think about it.
you've loved this topic long before.
No. But
And I
this
do
is
not. I do not
this is
agree with
serious.
this.
This is serious. The novelty to us of Tesla being new, being tech forward, being exciting, being fast. On anybody under the age of 30, it's totally lost on them because Tesla has been around throughout their entire consciousness. So the only thing they see is the same car that everybody else has. It is to them, to kids that are in their teens and 20s right now, when I talk to them, they look at a Tesla the same way we used to look at like a Toyota Camry. Like it's just boring. They're everywhere. Everybody who has one is like kind of a milquetoast, middle-aged white dude. Like nobody cares. They're not cool. They're
What did
not
you
fun.
call
They're
me?
exciting. Milquetoast, middle-aged white dude.
That's so accurate. Thanks a lot, Joe. I really appreciate this on
So
a Thursday, Friday.
before the show, I asked Zachary if he was ever a wrestling fan, and he goes, "Man, I don't know, maybe like in middle school or something." So this is my revenge for that little comment.
There was no tone. You're throwing a lot of tone.
Oh, there's a lot of tone. There's a lot of tone.
But no, I 100% agree with you on that. Though I also would. This is a big thing. So when we got it for more than 4 years ago, so
The Tesla,
my fourth grader was in like kindergarten, right? Is that right? So 3, 2, 1. Yeah. So when we would go through the pickup line or go near the school, kids would be going crazy. They're like,
Yeah.
"It's a Tesla! It's a Tesla!" They were all crazy for it. Bonkers.
It
And
was a long time ago.
yeah, slowly that I don't even realize when it happened, but it's just slowly stopped. Almost nobody bats an eye, cares at all. There's no hype about, wow, it's a Tesla. Of course, there are like 30 Teslas in the, among the parents.
That's it. And
Probably,
that's what makes the
probably
Kia
even
Soul.
undercounting. So,
Yeah, that's what
but it
makes
is
the
the
Kia
case,
Soul
like,
cool.
okay, everyone who was super excited about them 4 years ago, they've got one, they've experienced it, or they're just sick of them, or it's no longer whatever's hot on YouTube for first to fourth graders. I don't know, but it's definitely not the same as it was, and that should be worrying in my opinion. I mean, maybe that's why the Cybertruck is so important.
We'll see. All right, moving on.
Oh, I thought you were going to talk more about why they're boring.
I'm done. I said my piece.
You don't like the design, you don't like the interior. There's so much more you could say, Joe.
I don't have to like it.
Okay,
I don't
so
have
let's
to like
not talk
it for it
about
to be
Teslas,
exciting.
but I want to get your take on this thing, the interior of this BYD.
I think if I was looking at this and I was Ford or Chevrolet or Toyota, I would be deeply concerned because this is a sharp looking vehicle. It's got tech everywhere. And, the price is right. And when you talk about, go ahead.
Sorry, I thought you were done. What I thought after price was right, you were done. Sorry to interrupt. What are these things? These, like, what is going on with these? These are like,
what, the buttons?
There's like buttons and kind of like plastic crystal vein that
so the first one is the emergency flashers. The second one is auto hold. The one in the middle is probably the emergency brake. You got another one probably for seat heaters. Yeah, it's just stuff.
My first grader said heat seater yesterday as well.
It's a good one.
This is
Say
crazy.
seat heater like 5 times fast.
The links. Okay, we're moving on, but I'm not really sure. I think the interior is, on the one hand, it's like it's
you don't like it because it's busy.
It's very busy and it looks a little bit like cheap, like they tried to make it cool, but they rushed it.
But it is cheap. It's $35,000.
Yeah, that's where I always sort of stopped talking. Okay.
It's like the whole point of this thing is like, look how cheap this thing is. Amazing.
This is something else.
This is something else. So this is Caterham. Caterham's Project V. This is a rendering, but this car is not a concept. This is a production vehicle. They have managed to build this. Now, Caterham, if you're not familiar with Caterham, it's kind of a niche brand. They bought the license back in the 70s to manufacture the Lotus 7, which is an ultra lightweight, super lightweight vehicle. They have since made other vehicles. They made the Caterham 21, which is a more bespoke model. They had a Formula One team at one point. And these guys are just the masters at making stuff ultra lightweight and efficient. And this is an 1,100 kilogram. So 1,100 kilograms, do the math, about 2,400 pounds, ultra lightweight EV, tons of torque, lots of fun, has a 55 kilowatt hour battery. But because of its aerodynamics, because of its ultra low weight, it's got a really respectable, like 250 plus mile range out of 55 kilowatt batteries. That is incredible. That is an incredible number. And honestly, if you're the type of person that you spend 90% of the time driving a car with just yourself or yourself and one other person in it, this would be an awesome little thing to drive back and forth to work. I would absolutely love to drive one of these.
That is barely heavier than your and my middle-aged milquetoast dad bods put together.
That's right.
This is honestly, look, I'm going to tell you the truth. I normally hate like stories about fancy supercars that are going to sell in really low volumes and look cool, but who really cares? Like those stories drive me nuts. When I looked at this, I was like, my heart jumped out of my chest. I finally was like experienced. I was like, I want that car. I might be really tired today, but I was just like, I want that car. Like, oh my gosh, that is a thing of beauty. That is really special. I
Yeah.
love this. And I didn't know about the weight thing. That just makes me love it that much more. I mean, the efficiency.
You can see the specs right there: 249 miles, 55 kilowatt hour, 140 mile an hour top speed, 0 to 60 in 4.5 seconds. And this is the thing too, right? Like, you don't need 0 to 60 in 1.9 seconds to have a thrilling experience. In fact, I would argue that most of the number one comment I get from my kids in the backseat of an Uber or Lyft when it's a Tesla and the guy is just driving it with a real heavy foot is like, I'm getting nauseous. I feel
no,
sick.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, a lot of people get sick from the driver. On the driver's side, you know what the car is going to do. You don't get sick and you don't realize how much you're making other people sick. But yeah, no, I mean, man, when my daughters and wife kicked me out of the house, I want this car.
That's the one. Yeah.
this is the one. Anything more to say? I mean,
what else is there to say? Like, look,
I mean,
we can
can't talk about
have
volumes. I mean,
no, but I mean, like, think about this. We can have a lightweight, fun, exciting sports car that does not have 1,000 horsepower, right? Like every time you have a conversation about EVs going fast, it's like, we're gonna line it up next to a Lamborghini. It's the fastest thing you've ever driven. It's gonna, compress your guts through the back of your every time you hit the gas pedal. It's like, dude, we don't need that. We can have something like this. We can have class, we can have style, we can have fun, and we can do it with 55 kilowatt hours. This is great.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if James Bond is like still cool or if he's canceled or what, but this should be like in the next Bond movie.
If he's not canceled, he will be.
Bad for Bond. I mean, he's just a misogynistic, arrogant, rich white guy.
Good for him.
I gotta feel bad for him. No, I'm missing Bond movies. I really do.
Yeah, be all right.
There should be a new one coming out in the next few years, and he should drive that thing.
I agree. So this is interesting. So, this happened actually a couple of weeks ago, and we keep putting this on the list, but it keeps dropping off the end. So I'm glad we're finally talking about it. Honda has brought out, this is the Honda Prelude. This was a vehicle that in the 80s and 90s, this was their like sporty coupe. This was like supposed to be like the thinking intellectual version of a sports coupe. You would buy one of these instead of a Mustang or Camaro or something. I still think that's probably where this is going to land, where, it's kind of that sport compact niche, but it's a good looking car. They're definitely going to build it. It's an electric version of their 80s icon. And, it kind of shows that they're starting to take some of this stuff seriously. They're reaching into the past to bring out legacy nameplates the same way that Ram is doing with the Ram Charger, the same way that, Ford is doing with the Mustang Mach-E. So for Honda to go back and pull out the Prelude and make it an EV, I think that's cool. It won't ever be massive sales volume, but I think it is something that'll bring some enthusiasts into the Honda showrooms. And I think there's a lot of people who they would buy a new Prelude, whether it was internal combustion or EV. They don't really care about that. They care about the Prelude name. So they might be pretty excited about this.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I don't really care, but that's partly because I was in an accident in a Prelude and I didn't really enjoy that.
Were you really?
Yeah.
Were you killed?
So yeah, it is, but it's fun to come back to life. Like,
yeah, no, it's always good.
No, but my best friend, one of my two best friends in college, had a red Honda Prelude. We were roommate. We had our first apartment of our own together, because he was a music major actually. He loved the idea that it was named a Prelude.
Oh
He
yeah, I can see
also
that.
was like getting kicked out of school for not being focused enough. So after one semester at college, he was a year older. We got an apartment together, and he got this Honda Prelude, which he loved. I mean, he absolutely loved it. I didn't care for it. It was small, cramped, and like I said, like he was making a fine left turn at a green turn signal,
As one does.
when a car just plowed through the red light and smashed us. So
Oof.
I have a lingering back issue from that, and another more minor accident before that. So I'm not a real, so it doesn't bring back great memories. Let me put it that way.
Gotcha.
But I know my friend absolutely was in love with his Prelude. And I imagine there's a lot of people like him who would love a new Prelude. And if you just remove that weird history from my life, I think the car looks phenomenal. I really like the car. I think it
Yeah,
looks,
it's a really nicely styled car. They did a great job with it.
yeah, it's like a broke version of this thing.
Yeah. Well, and it's got room for the two kids in the back, so you'd be all right.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, this is what I could aspire to. This is not. So this is very cool. I think it would be great if, Honda. I think it's a very cool. Honda hasn't wowed in the EV space. It's
Yeah.
been a big laggard, like maybe the biggest. We talk a lot about Toyota, but Honda might be even bigger laggard. I think it is. So if it could finally like show up with something cool, that would be a great, kind of redemption. So I hope it would bring this to market and try to revive its brand.
Yeah, I think Honda's going to be probably the last of the major OEMs to embrace electric.
And at the same time, like you don't think of Honda as failing. Like it's not a company where like, oh, they're gonna I mean, I guess there's a lot of talk about they're gonna fail, they're gonna crash because they're too late to the party. But frankly, I mean, it's sort of like Toyota. You're like, they're gonna make it fine, but
Yeah,
it's
they're going to be
nice
all
if they
right.
finally show up. It's just time zones, It's just an issue of time zones.
This is so fun. So this is another one. I actually didn't know about this till we started talking about the Prelude this morning again. This is an autonomous electric work mower. I love Honda, man. Honda makes everything, whether you're buying a jet engine, a jet aircraft, or a leaf blower. If it has a power plant, if it has a motor, Honda is there, and they're making something for it. So they're showing a lot of electrified lawn and garden equipment, and this is the autonomous work mower. Like any industry, the agriculture industry, the landscaping industry, they're having a hard time finding people. What I really like about this is that, you have to train it. So it is autonomous, but it also uses that institutional, that generational knowledge that, a farmer or a landscaper would have. They would know not to go over this tree root. They would know not to go over this rock kind of thing. So, to see this kind of come along this way, I think is really interesting. And, yeah, not much else to say.
Yeah, and just continuing on from our discussion about Cruise yesterday, the good news is it only mows over 2-year-olds and below. So
Right? It will stop if it hits a 4-year-old. If
yeah,
you're
even
two,
if you're 2 years and 1 month, it'll stop for you. If it's
oh
just
yeah.
it's just if a crawling baby gets into the way that it will mow it over.
Well, we're gonna get letters now. Great. Someone's gonna be handwriting a letter.
We're
Let's
losing
see.
viewers and subscribers by the day. By the way, that reminds us, if you enjoy this episode and our EV obsession takes in general, first of
Subscribe.
all,
Well, if you're
subscribe,
already
like
here,
this
you've
video.
probably already subscribed. We should
Yeah,
start this off with subscribe.
yeah. But like the video, subscribe. If you don't like the sometimes dark humor, let us know and we'll try to cut it out. We'll do our best. But it's obviously like just not
That's not true at all. If you
it's
tell us you don't like it, we're gonna get worse.
that's probably true. Yeah. I feel like this should have been a Halloween story with like it's a ghost controlled
I love this.
but it did
But
it
again,
did
this is why this is so critical. We're teaching it, and then it's going to do what you showed it to do.
yeah.
It's not thinking on its own. It's recording and playing back.
No
And
risk
this I
there.
think is going to really work.
No risks there. You can't buy 100 of these and train it to overrun a city. All right, the video's not over. We're gonna move on. So I ran out of stuff
Enough.
to say. The video's almost over. All right, there we go. Oh, he stopped. You see, he does stop for the adults. So we have a new electric vehicle magnet attracts GM with rare earth free formula, and GM's sorry. Yeah, so GM Ventures and Niron Magnetics pursue affordable, sustainable EV motor magnets. This is a press release. Got Tina's story on it. Joe,
Yeah,
what do you
I think this is interesting. We're starting to see more and more electric motors that are coming out with improved efficiencies that are using fewer rare earth magnets. And I think that's important, not necessarily important for the market. I think it's important to win over that like center of the road, center right conservatism of people who are saying, well, I don't know if these EVs are really green. I don't know if they're really environmentally beneficial because they use all these weird elements that I didn't realize existed 6 months ago. And they're probably being mined in China, and that's all bad stuff. So if we can address that and we can, alleviate that concern for the 8 or 9 million mental patients who believe that kind of thing. Yeah, I think that's a good thing.
Yeah, I don't have anything to add on this. Yeah, it's just one of those things like I like to see the progress, but it's not earth shattering, and especially
Yeah, we're not breaking a
issues,
ton of new ground here.
one of the issues with rare earth metals is the name, because it doesn't mean they're rare. This is one thing. It's like, should you say it every time? But
Yeah.
it's something people don't understand. The name says the name comes from the history of how these minerals were sort of discovered, but it doesn't mean that they're rare. There are some rare earth metals that are very abundant. So it's not really an issue with that. But yeah, the more sustainable and the more abundant, the better. We also have note of Solid Power shipping solid state sample EV cell battery cells to BMW. So I think it's notable. I mean, obviously, all these automakers are talking about solid state batteries for a few lifetimes, but it's still, I think it's noteworthy that they're getting these new sample cells.
Yeah. Well, that's the question, right? Is like, is this real or is this just kind of more promise, more hype, but
Stock
not?
hype. I mean, it is on the stock market. Like they got to hype their stock, I guess. I don't know.
Well, and that's the thing, right? Like this is coming from them. It's like it feels like it's written for investors. It doesn't feel like it's coming from BMW as like a product announcement. It to me, it reads like, hey, we sent some of these things to BMW.
They might have accepted them.
Yeah, the receptionist signed for it, so we know she's got them.
Yeah,
So like
I
this is
mean,
a thing.
it says BMW demo car program deliveries are on track. I mean, the thing is, we know automakers have been toying with solid state batteries, and they want solid state batteries for ages. But if it comes down to it, in 5 years, BMW, or in 3 years, BMW is producing EVs with solid power batteries. It'd be great to like point back and be like, oh yeah, we talked about them. We were very complimentary.
Oh yeah, we totally called this.
We called this. We
We
highlighted
saw
this.
it. Well, I think BMW is actually in a really good spot with its battery tech as it is. So I don't know what they're going to get out of this, but I think BMW is doing a great job. Sure.
And we're to Lucid, the premium market, record holding EV brand that nobody cares about. It is a wonder. They produce wonderful vehicles, best EVs.
They make great cars. One thing has nothing to do with the other. I think
best cars I've driven. I love the Lucid.
Yeah, but I don't think it's us saying that we don't care. I think it's us pointing out that the market has not responded to Lucid in the way that they responded to Tesla. And I think, frankly, it's because Peter Rawlinson, he wanted to outdo the Model S and very correctly understood that, the economies of scale, the diffusion of innovation curve, you have to go to that higher end of the market to build up your economies of scale. but they're taking too long to bring out a mass market vehicle. They're taking way too long. We
Well,
need that.
they weren't going to. It was not until pretty recently that they decided they would produce a mass market vehicle. Like the idea was they never would.
Mm,
And
I don't know. I remember some Lucid Motors product roadmaps that I saw years and years ago.
so maybe there was, but then there was,
Yeah.
but then more recently there is again. But also, I would say that when Tesla was like at this stage, no, I mean it didn't have, the stock price was minimal as well. So it's not like stock didn't blow up until the Model 3 came into volume production and Tesla became profitable. That's when Tesla stock blew up. So, until Lucid proves otherwise, until Lucid proves it can go down that path, it's just not going to be noted, especially since it's so, the Model S was like hot a decade ago, and
Yeah.
it's not really at all now either. I mean, I would say the same thing about the Model S and X. Nobody pays attention to them anymore, pretty much. I mean,
That's true.
to some extent,
So,
with all of Tesla's brand, they do, but even with all of Tesla's brand backing, people don't really pay attention to them.
so I posted on the chat, and I'll try to post it. I'll try to post the link to it here in the Zoom chat. I guess that's not it. But this is when Lucid launched on the IPO with Churchill Capital back in 2019. This is a page 31 from their deck. And they're showing that 2023 was when they were going to launch there you go. 2023, they were going to launch the Gravity SUV, and then plans towards more volume markets, SUVs and sedans towards 2030. But even the Project Gravity, we haven't seen. We haven't seen any concepts. We haven't seen any renderings. We haven't heard any news other than the original launch saying we're going to build more mass market products. We haven't seen anything like that.
That's like a
So
really bad Photoshop and a very ugly vehicle concept.
I agree with you completely.
Like that looks really like they put nothing into it. I don't know. I'm not surprised.
Yeah, I mean, what do you say to that, right? Like, kind of is what it is.
But I don't see a note here that any of these are mass market.
Well, they're smaller, like that note that you see right there. It says Lucid plans to start with high-end cars, build the brand synonymous with luxury, and then manufacture progressively more affordable vehicles in higher volumes. I mean, that's what it says right there on that image.
Oh, I see. Like I was looking everywhere else but there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The highlighted box that they highlighted.
I'm like
in a
looking at the
different
headline,
color.
the subheading, the text above it. Okay, yeah. Well, I don't know. I mean, I just know there was a point where Rawlinson said they were not going to go down market. They were going to remain a premium brand. And then I know it was more recently, I think this year, that changed. Oh my, I gotta cut that out.
Yeah, who knows? All right. Well, I think that's the Lucid news. Oh, so we didn't even actually talk about the story. The story is you can plug your Tesla into a Lucid now.
Yes.
Amazing.
You can plug any EV into a Lucid now.
Right. So there you go. Now you can do that.
Bi-directional charging. You also have a story the day before that we skipped over, that Lucid adopted North American Charging Standard, MAX. I don't follow anymore, but Elon Musk tweeted something about this, some kind of snide comment. But
yeah. Well, I mean, that's got to hurt Rawlinson's ego, doesn't it?
yeah, they have some kind of weird ego battle going on.
Yeah.
I don't know how much Rawlinson is engaged in it, because I don't think I've seen anything from him about it, but Elon sort of takes pot shots at him quite regularly.
Well, there was a few days ago, there was the developer conference for OpenAI, which got hacked this morning, by the way, but it's a different conversation.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, it's down for like 100 million users.
That's awesome.
So anyway, OpenAI had their developer conference a few days ago, and while their conference was going on, Elon posted on X that they had a new large language model AI that was quote unquote not woke. So it
Right.
was basically they built a racist robot. So good for you, Elon. That's great stuff. And they asked the CEO of OpenAI, they asked what he thought about Elon's timing and Elon's announcement and whether or not it was completely hypocritical for him to come out and say that AIs should be governed and held back and throttled back while he was at the same time developing a rival, which by the way, totally called it. And the CEO's response was great. He goes, Elon's gonna Elon. And like,
That,
man, I
that's
have
Sam
wasted
Altman, or
yeah, OpenAI, yeah. And I was like, man, I have wasted so much of my time just being angry about this nerd billionaire man. And like, what a great response. Like, Elon's gonna Elon, we're gonna do our own thing. And like, man, kudos to you, dude.
well, the thing, yeah, I've said it before. The thing that bothers me is when Tesla was a little guy and was punching up on this big legacy auto industry and these big bullying auto companies that were blocking anyone out from entering, it was a great story.
But
Like
that never
I thought it was a
happened.
great story.
That was never real. He only existed because he got money from Toyota and money from Mercedes Benz and millions of dollars in carbon credits that he sold to Stellantis at that time,
Okay,
Cerberus and Chrysler.
but
So like the
but the
story was
story of them
always not
of Tesla
right.
punching up and trying to break in
Yeah, fair enough.
was, I think, a good story. Once Tesla became the biggest brand, or it became like worth more than the next seven automakers combined, it had succeeded, became profitable, everything was rosy. Like that's the time to be cool and be humble and not be the bully that you were fighting against. And I just see sign after sign of bullying and being a prick and like just basically just
It's being awful.
using all of the weight that Tesla and Elon have built up to not play nice, like to not even be a good citizen in any of these kind of debates or market battles. And I don't know, some people think it's fun. I just think it's like lame. It's like just play cool, like if you got a better product, got better development teams, then just show your work. Don't throw jabs at everybody who's in the same space as you. And,
Yeah, I don't know. I think that was always the story that everybody wanted to tell. I just I
no,
don't think that was ever the real story.
no, I mean, I have to concede that you seem to have better insight on that than I did. I also would go to the thing that Isaacson, the biographer of Elon Musk, has said, which is that there are several really different Elons, and
Yeah.
I think I've always focused on certain Elons that I think are really cool and really even I think he's got a very humble Elon in there that's been a key to his success and why people like him. But then he's just got a flip side like Jekyll and Hyde, you know, Elon that's the opposite of that, and guess looked over it more before, and now it's just really irritating. So the last thing on Lucid, they introduced a referral program in late October. We didn't talk about that either because nobody noticed. But it's again, it's sort of just following in Tesla's footsteps in that way. I don't know if it will help or not, but Lucid needs help. So
I
that's
think
the end.
that's
Yeah,
the
go
end.
go for
Yeah,
it. Yeah, you have something to say on that?
I do. I think it's hard for Lucid because it's a little bit different than Tesla. Because when Tesla was launching into the marketplace, they were something really new and something very visible. And I think that you were making a statement by buying a Tesla. I think the only statement you're making from buying a Lucid is I already had a Tesla and I want something nicer.
Or I have money and this is new.
Yeah, like
Thing.
Lucid's whole thing, and I've talked about this a lot. Lucid kind of marketed itself as a Tesla killer from the beginning, right? Like this is the car that Peter Rawlinson wanted to build from the beginning. Like that was their whole thing is like we're the Tesla killer. But when you define your brand through the lens of another brand, what that really means is you have no brand. Maybe you have a vendetta, but it's certainly not a brand. And Yeah, that's tough, man. That's a tough
That's
that's a
Joe.
tough thing to sell.
That's thinking Joe there. Smart Joe. You're giving you credit for your brains. You're not looking. Thinking
I
Joe
don't
there. That's very
I
good.
just feel
That's a good
bad.
line.
Yeah, is it?
Brilliant.
Okay.
That's a
Well, so
brilliant
this is
line.
interesting. I want to talk to you about this. We don't have a lot of guests on this segment, but I do want to invite somebody that I met from Electric E-Bikes, and it's their brand manager. And we were talking about the Seth Godin thing in one of these really, really early episodes about the Tesla hotel, and she had some really smart stuff. So I'll probably put that over at Clean Tech Talk on the podcast. So if you're listening to this now, if you're watching this, if you're one of the few people that does enjoy this, thank you so much for giving us your time and attention. Be sure to check us out. Clean Tech Talk, that's the name of the podcast. EV Obsession, you're already here. And obviously cleantechnica.com. Like, subscribe, do all the things.
Yeah, do all the things. Thanks a lot. And I did well, I was just gonna say on the Lucid. Okay, we can skip it. I just
Stop beating up on
the
us.
thing on the Lucid, I would and Tesla thing. I mean, people point out that Lucid and Rivian are not that much younger than Tesla, and you have to give
That's right.
credit to Elon and JB Straubel and the whole team that they
Absolutely.
worked their butt off to get to market quickly with everything and to beat everybody. There was Detroit Electric back then. That was a hot potential EV
Yeah,
start.
2008. That was
There were a bunch of
absolutely.
EV startups, and Tesla, Elon, JB, they found a way, they made it happen. And that's why it's so hard for Lucid, because they were not first, because they took longer. Rivian took too long to develop a really good EV, and now they have a much harder battle on their hands than even Tesla had, which had a huge battle. So huge
That's right.
credit to that skill and that ability. And part of that is kind of maybe that fighting blood in Elon Musk. But all right, that's it. That's the show. Thanks a lot. Peace. I salute Joe for his service, non-service service.
Who else? No, I think so. Who else on our team was
Oh,
military?
Steve was in Vietnam.
I
Steve
was
Ham
gonna say Steve, Steve for sure. What
Steve
about Paul? Wasn't Paul a Marine or
Paul
something?
probably was. He's from that generation. Paul, salute you for your potential service.
I think we're older than Paul, dude.
No way. Paul is not he's not Steve's generation, but he's between us and Steve.
Fair enough. All right, man. We'll talk.
All right. Cheers. Peace.